So let me get rid of these shades here. Just came in from the outside and put on these specs. Hello everybody. As you probably know, and for those who don't, I'm Dan Valenti of planetvalenti.com, and we're filming this on my new YouTube channel, Planet Valenti Video, and we hope this can be up in a timely fashion. And I just want to say that this will be kind of dated material. We're filming this on a beautiful early September Friday, September the 2nd in 2022. Just, what is that, I think 4 days until the election on September the 6th, 4 or 5. And so we hope to just share some thoughts about Campaign 22, just kind of randomly go through some ideas about the campaign, some things that struck me. Of course, as you know, on my website, again, planetvalenti.com, you should check it out. We have been covering this campaign in earnest, I would say, probably since early June. That's when Sheriff Tom Bowler announced that he was up for re-election for the second time, and he has had 12 years now on the job. First time out in 2010, I think it was. He ran against Dan Boesley, a former state rep. People thought that because of Bowler's background in law enforcement and Dan Boesley's primarily considered a legislator, that Bowler would have the inside edge. That proved to be true. He won the office. Next time up, he did not face opposition. This time around, it was quite different, as you all know. He has faced a stiff and aggressive challenge by Alf Barbalunga, who is the senior probation officer in the Southern Berkshire District Court. And this is not what I would call a token campaign. And you know what they are, right? We'll probably see that next year in the municipal elections. And that's when we'll see the school board come up for a vote here in the city of Pittsfield, also the city council, and the mayor's race, which I expect to be highly contested. But typically, if you have a popular incumbent and no one wants to go up against him or her, you'll see someone who's in for the Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame, right? They get their name on the ballot and they get a few lines in the newspaper, and then you don't hear from them. They don't organize, they don't raise money, they don't put out lawn signs, so you know it's not a serious bid. This time for sheriff, and for the first time for Tom Bowler, he's in a race. Now, whether this is a tight race or not, it's going to be up to you guys. And on September the 6th, on Election Day at 8:01 p.m., we'll know how it all shakes out. First, let me just say a few words just as education about voting. It used to be that you could just show up on Election Day and cast your ballot, and that was it. Now there are many opportunities and options for people who want to cast a ballot in absentia. That was always the case, but only if you were on vacation or a veteran serving overseas or disabled. They would allow an absentee ballot. Well, today, in effect, because of the new laws in the Commonwealth, everyone can vote that way. You don't have to show up in person. Now, early voting started on August the 27th, so here we are now 6 days, almost a week into early voting. So the race is on. We just don't know how those ballots are going. They'll be opened on Tuesday evening by the various city clerks throughout Berkshire County. So you can obtain a ballot. I think the deadline is passed for that, I'm not sure. You can fill it out at home, and there will be a drop box outside of City Hall in Pittsfield and in every other town, and in North Adams, the other city in Berkshire County. And you just fill it out, put it in the drop box. In the case of Pittsfield, it's located behind City Hall. Has a lock on it, but I understand that Pittsfield leads the nation in per capita of lock pickers. Not that I'm suggesting anything here, but so you can vote that way. You can also vote in person the traditional way, and the various municipalities and you see this trend statewide and also nationwide, that the various secretaries of state and city clerks and the people who decide how to vote and when and where have tried to, at least theoretically, make it easier for you to do that. And of course, everyone says it's your duty to vote. Really, it's your duty to decide to vote or not. And as we will see in this upcoming election, the vast majority of the electorate in Berkshire County will choose not to vote. Now, that's not how it was designed to work. Our voting system on a constitutional republic, a democracy, is not built that way. We would presume that well more than 50% of the electorate would cast a vote, and therefore people could live with the decision. That's not the case today for whatever reason. I was talking just today, earlier this morning on September the 2nd, with Pittsfield City Clerk Michelle Benjamin, and I was asking her to estimate the turnout, in-person, absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, all told, and she said she would be pleasantly surprised if it hit 30%. Now think of that. 30% of the electorate, and if you take the sheriff's race and the race for district attorney, if they're reasonably close, I define a landslide as 60-40. If a candidate gets 60% of the vote and the opponent gets some portion of the rest, that's a landslide. If it's 55-45, not so much. But in a close election, you're talking then a fraction, a little more than half of 30% of the electorate. That's really not a mandate. And I think that's been one of the problems that we've had electorally certainly locally, where turnouts have been appallingly low. There's no presidential race on the ballot this time. This is a primary, or technically a preliminary election that the parties have to see who then faces off in November. So who can vote on Tuesday? It's the Democratic primary. There will be, other than the statewide ballots, in Berkshire County, if you're voting in the Democratic primary, of course, you can't vote for a Republican. Could you vote in the Democratic primary if you are a Republican? And the answer is no. If, however, you are an unenrolled voter, what we call independent, you can then choose to vote in the Democratic election. And in Pittsfield, more than half the electorate is unenrolled, so they could actually decide who wins on Tuesday when all is counted. You know, the way elections have gone nationwide for president, it seems like now we are in the era of contested votes. tons of controversy over the presidential vote of 2020, which was won, so they say, by President Biden. Donald Trump contending that. The one before, you go back all the way to the year 2000, when Al Gore was declared the winner, and the Florida vote came in at the last second, and all of a sudden we have George W. Bush declared the president, and had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it seems like since that election, we have become a nation that is more and more divided. We've become a city and a locale in Berkshire County that's more and more divided, and we have seen that in the venom and the tone and the tenor of this campaign. It was apparent to anyone who saw the filmed debate that we did with Sheriff Tom Bowler and Alf Barbalunga that there was no love in that room expressed for each other. It was a pretty sharp affair, kind of wrapped in barbed wire and sandpaper, and it was almost like each guy had a bowl of cactus for breakfast before they came in to the room. And they sat down, and I would say that of any forum, debate, conversation that was done in public during this campaign, that the sheriff's debate that was hosted by my website and posted on Planet Valenti Video was the most informative, only because we got to see a bit of the personalities behind the lawn signs and behind the, things like this, the campaign literature. Those are always put out, and they're put out to make the particular candidate look like the gift from God who has ascended from on high after being in the vicinity of the good Lord's throne and come down, and they're going to save everything. They're going to solve all the problems. And you know how that goes. Campaigns are a lot of hot air, a lot of promises that are not meant to be kept. And sadly, you win an election by running to win as opposed to running to govern. Running to govern is a whole different matter. Running to govern means you get it lost in a lot of technicalities, the nuances that the ordinary voter who is leading right now a hurried, worrisome life, just trying to keep their heads above water, they don't pay attention to all that. A bumper sticker, maybe that makes an impression. A lawn sign, some platitudes on campaign literature. And I've often seen my role as a provocateur in the best sense of the word, in the best sense of the way H.L. Mencken did it in the 20th century, is to stimulate conversation. We were meant to hash things out in America, in the marketplace of ideas. All points of view are to be heard, and the theory was, well, the truth will rise to the top. I don't think that's that case anymore. Now, in the sheriff's debate, check it out for yourself. You'll see that they kind of went back and forth. It was I was talking earlier to a colleague of mine and liking it to Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Remember that game from the 60s? And your robot would hit the other guy on the chin and the head would pop off. Well, we saw a little bit of that during the debate. Probably the most interesting part of that debate was when the sheriff's wife, of all people, unofficially entered the debate. Now, I've done a lot of these on radio and television. And I've not seen that done before. So this was a first for Planet Valenti and probably for everybody else. And we'll see if we can insert the clip here and just show you what happened. But the one thing that struck me when they came into the room, and the conference room where we filmed was packed. In fact, there was standing room only pouring out the door, something we had not anticipated because it wasn't meant to be a public debate. Word got out, and anyways, each side brought their supporters. And we're going through the debate, and Barbulunga and Bowler are going back and forth. And one launches a fusillade of incoming, and the other guy bats it back. At one point, things got a little personal, and they blame me for that. I'm just the guy in the middle, man. I don't really set up the rules. In my forums, the debates that I do, we basically just put the candidates in proximity to each other. They're not sitting behind or standing behind podiums or microphones. There's not some moderator with the podium. It looks like Alan Ludden hosting Password in the 1960s. He's standing up on the podium with a suit and tie. That's not how we do it. I try to create a relaxed format so that we do see more of the person behind the rhetoric. Well, we certainly saw that during the sheriff's debate. At one point, Sheriff Bowler's wife, who was sitting right next to him, and I just made a mental note of that going in. And I said, okay, that's probably not a good look for the sheriff. Anyways, things get personal, and Mrs. Bowler she leans her head forward, as I recall, and starts to yell at Alf Barbulunga. And she's screaming this and that and so forth. And, I'm thinking, was it something I said? I felt like Richard Pryor in the middle there, just wondering what was going on. Now, I had every right to kind of dress her down for doing that. That's just not something you do. But again, in the spirit of providing a true look at people at their best and their worst, I let it go. I had all the rights in the world to kind of put the gavel down and heavy-hand it, and that's not what I did in the moment. It's not what I would do right now looking back at it. But I must say afterward, it was not a good look for the sheriff because it made it look like he needed his wife to step in to speak for him and defend him. And anybody who knows Pudge Bowler knows that that is not the case. But that's not the look that we saw during the debate. Now, after the debate, Bowler's campaign manager, who also happens to be his sister, Donna Mattoon, kind of excoriated me for, I'm not really sure how to phrase this, for instigating it, for allowing it to happen. Again, I allow things to happen that happen. It's up to the candidates themselves to choose how they want to play it. Anyways, Donna Mattoon, a former reporter for the Berkshire Eagle, I have a lot of respect for her, was acting more like a big sister rather than a campaign manager. And those are the two hats that she had to wear. Well, she was acting in the role of a campaign manager, or appearing to be the campaign manager and acting like the big sister, needing to protect her brother who just got beat up at the playground. And once more, it was not a good look for the sheriff. I do think that set him back a little bit. And just scuttlebutt, I have no verification of this. I heard through my sources in the Bowler campaign that afterwards the sheriff, Tom, basically had a come to Jesus meeting with his wife and his sister and just said, look, I can take care of myself. Who's going to win that race? Well, you tell me. I've been accused of, in fact, if you go to Planet Valenti that I posted for the weekend edition, you'll see some comments to the effect of I am secretly backing Alf Barbelunga, that I'm running interference for him, and things of that sort. Of course, it's preposterous, it's nonsense. When you write about campaigns the way I do, that is, truthfully, tell it like it is, share the fact. It's interesting, in all the years I've been doing The Planet, since, in fact, this month, 2010, end of September, so that's going on 12 years, about 2,500 columns. I've never been once attacked on the facts, except, check that, one situation back in 2012. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. A person sought redress in the courts for a series of investigative articles that I did involving a hit and run. The judge ruled ex parte, which meant that I wasn't even aware of it, that not only did I have to take down all of the articles that I had written about this case, the judge also imposed a preliminary or an injunction against me posting further articles. Prior restraint, it's called. Well, a hearing was set up for a week later. That case drew national and international attention because it came down to the issue of what is allowable on the internet. It went to court, and for 6 hours we hashed it out. And I remember the question that brought it all down. I spoke for about 45 minutes, and the question was, can you point out one factual item in all of the columns that I wrote about this incident that was incorrect? No. Everything I wrote was verified and turned out to be true. Won the case, and I was proud that I stood up and fought, because we won a precedent for free speech. The internet is still somewhat the Wild West. It's not a regulated frontier in terms of what you can say, what is protected speech, what is considered libelous. And that case was won. So I would go back and say to those who think I'm pulling for Alf Barbelunga in the sheriff's race, that's just simply not true. It's preposterous. I put out a series of facts. The comments, the commentary on those facts, that's a different matter. You can agree or disagree. You can say I'm full of shit. You can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and that's fine. I love pushback and feedback on the facts, but you can't dispute the facts themselves. My interpretation, fair game. So I have no problem with that. So I'm not pulling for anybody. I will say this, that Barbalunga has run a remarkably good campaign against a two-time incumbent who will have been in office for 18 years if he wins again, if Sheriff Bowler wins again. 18 years. That's a long time for one person in one position. And I do think that during that debate, there was a point that came up, and I'm not sure whether I addressed it in a question or whether Barbalunga did, but it made reference to the empire that the sheriff had built up. You know, the previous sheriff, Carmen Maspiano, had been sheriff since Peter Arlos was knee-high to Aristotle. And that's how long he was in there. And no question, Carmen's empire was there. And same charges were raised, or at least question was raised. Well, hasn't Tom Bowler done the same thing? I don't know the answer to that. You could interpret it either way. It came up during the debate, and Bowler said, no, I haven't built an empire. I built a dynasty. I think he stepped into it a little bit. He was walking through the field and landed on a cow pie with that one. And here's why. When I hear the word dynasty, outside of the New England Patriots winning so many Super Bowls, you know what I think of? I think of North Korea. I think of Kim Jong-un, who took over from his father, in 1949, the Kim dynasty. Dynasties are familial. You establish a dynasty with family members. It's a heritage. It's a line of succession. I'm not sure that Tom Bowler wanted to use that word. Maybe he did. It sounded like he anticipated this coming up. He said he had a dynasty, and dynasties aren't typically up for vote, you know. So my guess is that he would probably want to have that term back, and Barbalunga has pounced on that word in subsequent literature, and we have some campaign literature here. There's one piece where he references the dynasty, and I'm not going to bother to look for it now, but I just thought he was making some pretty good hay with that one. Barbalunga's been on the attack. He went in as the underdog, and he's been in attack mode since day one. That's a classic campaign strategy when you're the underdog. Best offense is a great offense, and he has not let up. They've done, I think by the time things are over, close to 40 press releases. It was one right after the other, a literal barrage. And some, I think, hit home. My impression, and it's just that, is that the Bowler camp did not anticipate such a strong effort. Now, the Bowler people have also been playing it in the classic way. They've gone into the prevent defense, put up their offense is having the best defense. And it's sort of like, again, to use a football analogy, you see one team build up a big lead, and then in the fourth quarter, they kind of loosen up the defense, prevent anything deep, and give up all sorts of yardage in the middle. Sometimes it backfires. I'd say more than not, it wins. I've never liked the prevent defense as a strategy, but it was clear that Barbalunga's tactic from the get-go was to kind of keep the sheriff on his toes, and then from there try to knock him back on his heels a little bit and have to either keep responding or not. So that's my take on the sheriff's race. Again, we'll see how it all plays out on September the 6th when the ballots are counted. The other race, of course, is district attorney. And I feel like I should do this when I say district attorney, because that's what you do to win a case. I learned that by watching Perry Mason. Loved the legal shows when I was a kid. Thought for about 3 seconds of becoming a lawyer. I was pretty good at debate and had a long string of wins in school on that, in college. And I decided, nah, I heard too many lawyer jokes, I guess. One of my favorite shows was The Defenders. You remember that show? Back in the 60s, E.G. Marshall was a defense attorney, and it started off with the narrator saying, "Democracy is a very bad form of government, but all the others are so much worse." And I thought to myself, yeah, that's America. Lately I'm wondering where the hell has it all gone? Where has it gone? So district attorney is an important position, obviously. It's the top law enforcement official in Berkshire County. It is the key guardian of public safety. The district attorney is your attorney when someone commits a crime. There's a shooting. There's a death from drugs, an overdose. There are pushers on the street selling this stuff. There are 300. This is a figure I got yesterday from an insurance agent who should know about this stuff. In Pittsfield, right now, on average, this summer, 300 catalytic converters a month are stolen out of vehicles. And they're stolen for the precious metals inside, of course, including, I think, platinum. Yeah, platinum and others. I'm told when they peddle them, get anywhere between $200 and $400 a pop. So there's money, and you know it's probably not all, but most of it's drug related and driven to feed a habit. The fact of the matter is, when these bad actors, gang members, large gang presence, not just in Pittsfield, also in North Adams, and who knows where else in Berkshire County. But when these people come in the numbers that they have in the past several years, the district attorney is your attorney. They are the ones, the district attorney himself or herself and their assistants, they're the ones who prosecute these cases. Andrea Harrington has not done that. She has virtually no experience in the courtroom, either on defense or in prosecution. Fact of the matter is, when she took office, she let go of a lot of experienced and effective assistants simply for political purposes. And they've had to actually hire outside talent to bring in because of the incompetence in that office in successfully prosecuting crime. Their solution was even worse. Well, let's just not prosecute crime. And we could go through the long list of crime that simply won't be looked at by the district attorney, the so-called the controversy over broken windows, which is basically a philosophy that says, no, you start with the small stuff. That sends a message that even the small stuff we're going to go after. Well, this new way, the new uber progressive system of prosecution basically looks the other way. It doesn't bring charges. All of the gun play in Pittsfield, all of the stops for illegal possession, so many of them just without consequence. And so we have what is perceived to be, and I think what in fact would be shown by the honest statistics and demographics, is we have a certain population in town that is meant to do harm, is out to harm the public for their own financial gain, and have basically interpreted the DA's office and Andrea Harrington's philosophy as, go for it, get out of jail free, man. This is a monopoly. And every card in the question mark deck and in the, what was the other one, the community chest deck, every one of them is a get out of jail free card. So without consequences, again, you're basically inviting now the criminal element to establish itself here, which it has. And from day one, it's been clear from the people who have left that office, the firings, the revolving door where you can't keep a steady team together. It's been clear that if the office claims that crime is down, well, you're not going to have a statistic or a number if you don't make a charge in the first place. That'd be like saying, make everything legal. If everything were made legal, crime would go away, it wouldn't exist. Tim Sugrue has been the opposite of that, and maybe, I'm not sure we can do this, but we can put in a, how are we doing with time there? We good? We had a forum set up also now for district attorney. I'll tell you how you lose a race. You don't show up to invited debates. Tim Sugrue accepted our invitation for an August 17th debate with Andrea Harrington in mid-July. Got back to us right away. Andrea Harrington did not have the professional courtesy to respond either way. Just did not show up, but did not say she was not going to show up. So here's how you lose a race. You don't show up for invited debates. She also ducked a Berkshire Eagle forum. He kept raising questions about the date of it until finally, in exasperation, the Eagle said, just forget it. So don't show up for debates. Don't answer media inquiries. She does not answer directly any inquiries from either the Berkshire Eagle or planetvalenti.com. It's like, I'm going to take my football and I'm going home. It's the wah-wah thing. You don't do that. You put on your big boy pants and your big girl capris, and you take the questions, and you invite the hard stuff, because only then will you get better. And the fact of the matter is that the press serves as the fourth estate. You go back to the Defenders Opening, democracy. Yeah, that very bad form of government. All the others are worse. But I'll tell you what, we were meant to have a division of powers. We have an executive branch. We have a legislative branch, and we have a judicial branch. And each sort of keeps an eye on the other, so we don't end up with a dictatorship. That's the only way it works, is shared power. And if you shut out the press, which is the fourth estate, basically you're shutting out what I think is, for a healthy democracy, which we do not have right now, is the most important and healthiest watchdog. The fourth estate, the press, was meant to cover those three other ones, just to make sure all was on the up and up. And there's one thing we know about politics, is it's never on the up and up. You can't believe campaign promises. You can only believe what they do after they get into office. So Andrea Harrington famously does not answer inquiries from the Berkshire Eagle or planetvalenti.com, only because, at least in my case, I can't speak for the Berkshire Eagle, I'm not afraid to ask the uncomfortable questions. So she did not show up for our forum. Oh, by the way, the other point in losing an election is to make very few public appearances. Don't put yourself out there for questioning. Andrea Harrington has done that. Tim Sughrue has done the opposite. He's everywhere all the time. He has run the most nonstop campaign I won't say that I've ever seen, but it would rank in the top 3. He's going at it. He's probably going to spend as much as, getting back to Alf Barbelunga for sheriff, we asked Barbelunga during our debate how much he was going to spend. He said $110,000. That's a serious effort. Sughrue's going to spend probably about that much, which tells us he wants it. He has thought about this for a long time, and unlike his opponent, as you have heard him say, he has decades of experience on both sides. A well-respected prosecutor in Springfield and a great reputation as a defense attorney here in Pittsfield for almost the last 3 decades. We're talking 36 years of experience, countless numbers of cases in court on both sides, a winning record on both sides. When you stack that up against Andrea Harrington, there's just no question about this. So yes, in that case, I'm not running interference for Sughrue. I'm simply sharing what he brings to this race with you out there, the public. Andrea Harrington ducks debates. Tim Sughrue has answered every one. Harrington shuns the media and anyone who might ask an uncomfortable question. God forbid that we should do that. We're just bad people, I guess. Come on. Sughrue and he ran against David Capeless in 2004. We were the first ones to have him on a radio show. And we've been in casual contact with the guy all throughout. Whenever we've had a question about a legal point or whatever, he has never failed to return a call or never failed to get back to us. Andrea Harrington has not, despite repeated entreaties from the heart extended to her. Look, you got a problem with me? What is it? Let's meet for coffee. Tell me face to face. I'd be glad to sit down with. And Andrea, if you're listening to this now, and you'll probably hear about it, I will gladly meet you for a coffee, off the record, and have you tell me why I'm such a bad, bad man. Or not. Shagru has answered the call. When the Berkshire Eagle gets in touch, he returns the call. He lets me know. He lets them know. He's not afraid to go out and show his face and answer questions. It's basically, he'll show up and he'll say, "What do you got? Shoot." You know, that's just smart. That's just smart business. Another way to lose an election is to avoid the public appearances, but have lots of private, secret meetings with high-priced campaign advisors, and who knows who else is in the room. And any campaign will have a public face and a private face. I get that. But not to the extent that it seems to be going right now. And if we could put in a little clip of the Shagru debate, we had Tim Shagru sitting on my right, and to my left we had a potted plat. As I recall, it was a succulent. Read into that what you will. It's kind of spiky on the outside. Sort of like a desert plant that you wouldn't want to touch if you had a choice. This is by mere chance, by the way, that we did that. So if we can show you a little bit of that, that would be fine. And as for that race, the initial analysis, I was talking to the wise guys. They said that Shagru would win Pittsfield, Harrington would win in North County, the Williamstown area especially, and South County. That was before and just as the race got started. Right now the perception has changed based on the campaign. Shagru running a almost perfect pitch-wise, tone-wise campaign. And Harrington basically running a non-campaign. And the number of people, high-level people, Sherwood Guernsey, former head of the Berkshire Brigades, former state legislator, Linda Tyre, the mayor of Pittsfield. We could go on and on about with people who supported Andrea Harrington the first time, the experiment to break the long gray line that went back to Berkshire County's first district attorney, Tony Roberto, who passed on to Jerry Downing, who passed on to David Capeless, who then passed on to Paul Cacchiavello. So there was that long gray line. Here comes this fresh face. She's a woman. She promises change. It was the experiment, and people were willing to try it first time around. Now, 4 years later, you get the sense that they've wisened up. The electorate is pretty much wisened up. And if we have any kind of a turnout on Tuesday, I think Charut's going to take it. Because I see him winning Pittsfield by a substantial amount. I think Andrea will hold on to most of her support in North County. In South County and in elsewhere throughout the county, not so sure. My impression is that she has lost a lot of the support that she had the first time around. And when all is said and done and you add it up, I just don't think that's going to work out for her. Again, we're going to wrap this up. These are just my thoughts, my impressions. And one story you might want to check out today, September the 2nd, on The Planet. It will be running all weekend long until our final campaign piece, where we'll have some last-minute notes to share on Monday. We posted a investigative piece that we did on the death of a 46-year-old Pittsfield woman who was in the custody of the Berkshire County Sheriff, and of course female prisoners, this was a point in the campaign, a huge one, are sent to the regional women's lockup in Chicopee. She was sent there, and I'm told 3 days into her confinement, on July 11th, she died. This issue did come up during the debate that Planet Valenti held with Sheriff Bowler and Alf Barbalunga. She died. And both the sheriff of Hampden County and the Berkshire County Sheriff, Bowler, said that the woman died of natural causes. Okay? It's going to happen to every one of us. The Planet obtained a copy of the actual death certificate. And again, check out what we wrote about that today. When you reach the line where it says cause of death, the official form now, the official death certificate says pending. And then there's a little line down below that, again, listing the manner of death, pending investigation. No one dies of an impending death investigation. They die from natural causes. Now, this is not to say that she did not die of natural causes. Just doesn't list that on the death certificate. So there is apparently an investigation pending on the death of this woman. And to the best of our knowledge, there is has been no report filed or published either by Sheriff Bowler in Berkshire County or the Hampden County Sheriff, the report on the circumstances of that death. And federal legislation, if I'm not mistaken, requires that every inmate who dies within official custody, the authorities have to generate a full report on that. I have not seen that report. I don't know if one has been issued, and if not, we question why. I think it's a serious matter because it addresses this whole issue of security and health of inmates while in custody, and in this case, the women prisoners. Last count, I think we had like 14 from Berkshire County in the regional lockup in Chicopee. I don't know if it's the right thing to leave them in Chicopee or to do what Barbalunga says on day one, that he will start to bring them back into Berkshire County. I don't know that. All I'm saying is there seems to be a question surrounding this woman's death. A lot of questions left up in the air, and it just doesn't have the right feel, taste, smell about it right now. And if all is on the up and up, then just issue an official report and tell us that. That's all. I think that's all for now, okay? So we're going to try to get this up in a timely fashion. This is September the 2nd, and it will be available at some point between now and September the 6th, which is the day that you, we hope, get out and vote. We hope that turnout well exceeds 30%. I'm a realist. I think it's going to be far less than 30%. I hope I'm wrong. So we toast good health to you. Thanks for listening and watching. And we are going to be back in the future with so much more once this blasted campaign is over and we can get into more exciting and imaginative programming. We're going to be doing that here on Planet Valenti Video. I'm Dan Valenti. Check our writing out on planetvalenti.com saying, so long everybody.